guys, how's it going? As I said, I'm going to start doing some product reviews and such, and I figured that I would go ahead and start with one of my favorite products, something that I use all the time that I can't speak highly enough about, and that is the Lems Primal 2 shoes. Now, to start off with, these shoes are a minimalist shoe, sort of to the extreme. They have an incredibly thin sole. They have a zero-drop heel, meaning that there's no raise in the heel. They also have no arch support. They have no kind of protection or shank or anything to keep you from feeling rocks and things that you step on. They're incredibly light, flexible. You can roll them up in a ball. You can wring them out when they're wet, which is great. And weight-wise, as they do say that 1 pound on your feet equals something like 6 or 7 pounds on your back, and these weigh 8.6 ounces without the insole in. They weigh 9.5 ounces with an insole in. Now, I generally will hike without the insole. I will put the insole in for if I'm going to be doing a lot of walking around town, walking around the city, stuff like that, just to sort of save my feet a little bit from the hard surfaces. Now, first and foremost, the thing that impresses me with these is durability. Now, I owned another pair of Lems shoes before these. They were the older version. They were a bit lighter, I would say. They didn't have as much structure to them, much more sort of like a sock on the top with a sole on the bottom. If you took your foot out, they just kind of collapsed, and there wasn't anything there. They've done some changes to these. The old pair that I had them for around 3 years, give or take, and the uppers were still mostly intact. There was still a little bit of sole left. The only issue was that after that period of time, they did separate at the edges and the stress points. The sole separated. I stitched them back together a couple times actually, and eventually just gave up and decided I needed to get new shoes. These ones, the specific pair, I got these back in November, which doesn't sound like that long ago. But in that time, trail miles that I've actually tracked on a GPS, these shoes have done 100 miles. And as far as walking around town and going shopping and driving and everything else, like I said, I wear them for absolutely everything. Everything else that I do, I have no idea how many other miles. I mean, I'm willing to bet that through my walks around the city and doing all of my other daily activities, that's probably at least another 100 miles on these shoes, give or take. Just speculation. But here's the deal. After 100 trail miles, I know they're dirty, as I didn't take the time to wash them, but they have no sign of separation. They have no signs of wear anywhere on the uppers. Nothing is coming undone, unthreaded, nothing is fraying, no problem. And the tread, if you take a look at that, it does have some wear. That's to be expected, but I would say, what is that, maybe 10% down? I've heard people talk about shoes only lasting a couple 100 miles. Not really an issue with these that I've seen. In comparison, there was another pair of shoes that I bought, actually right before I bought these, because I didn't feel like buying online and waiting, and my local retailer hasn't gotten a shipment in of these in a couple years now, so I decided to go into a store and see what I could get. So I picked up a pair of New Balance trail runners. They were very light, they felt super comfortable in the store. They weren't quite as minimalist as these, but they were also made in the USA, which was a big plus to me. These, unfortunately, are not. Anyway, I bought those shoes. I took them out to a trail, and I did a 20-mile hike. I came back, and they were already falling apart. The tread was ripping off in places. Where it bent around the front, the tread was coming off there. And I also had blisters on my heels. I had blisters on my toes. And I tried those shoes. It was a very wet hike, but I tried them with socks, thin socks. I tried them with thicker socks. I tried them barefoot all throughout that one hike, and it was excruciating. I actually had to, that was supposed to be a 3-day hike that turned into a 2-day because I was in so much pain. So I bit the bullet and ordered online, got another pair of these. Since that time, I have had 0 blisters, I've had 0 hot spots, I've had no hint of any kind of problem, and I have worn these through sloppy, wet, trail is a stream conditions, walking through water all day. I've worn them in the snow, I've worn them in the 70s and dry, and nothing. No hint of blisters at all. And here's the reason that these work so well for that. Blisters are caused by friction, and these shoes generally don't allow for friction to happen. The way that they're designed, they're very flexible at the top, very flexible all the way around, and they wrap completely around your foot and hold it like a glove all the way, even in the heel area. And so as your foot moves, the whole shoe moves with your foot. There's no rubbing, no issues whatsoever that I've had. Also, going on to wet conditions and things like that and discomfort, if it gets wet and then dry, these shoes will dry in less than an hour, I've found. If it's not incredibly humid, the sun's out, you know, your sort of typical summer hiking day, if you get soaked, they will dry super quickly. If you're hiking in continuously wet conditions, they will of course stay wet, but I've also found that even when they're soaked, they do a good job of insulating to some degree. I was out in this winter, since November, wearing these in the snow, and I had soaking wet feet, of course, pretty much the entire time, and as long as I was moving, my feet were dry. Or, my feet were warm. Not dry. I just said they were wet. Anyway, so, and that's sort of an advantage of any kind of light, breathable trail runner over hiking boots, or especially waterproof shoes or waterproof boots. I know that some people love them and swear by them, but every time I've worn them, and everyone else I've been around while I was out who was wearing waterproof boots, they get wet one way or another. If they somehow manage to not get water over the top, or if it isn't so wet that it eventually soaks through whatever coating makes them waterproof, they will get wet from the inside, from your feet not being able to breathe. And the thing with those is, it takes them days to dry. They don't dry out. These will. As long as they have a dry environment for a short period of time, they will dry out, and it's great. Ventilation-wise, I don't think you get any better. The front area of the shoe, and actually the entire body, is simply mesh. It just has another layer of fabric attached around the sides. But yeah, the front, you can feel the airflow the whole time you're hiking. Absolutely wonderful. Moving on to traction with these, they obviously do not have big, luggy tread. Something that I've found, and you may have had different experiences, but what I've found is that the big luggy tread on boots really isn't enough to make as big of a difference as you think it's going to. That once you get onto slimy, algae-covered rocks, or sheets of ice, or really thick, slippery mud, that tread doesn't do anything for you. You're still going to slip and slide. Same thing here. If you're in those conditions, these will be slippery. If you're on dirt, if you're on dry rock, if you're on pavement, if you're walking across pine needles or leaf litter or whatever, these shoes are fine. They grip just as well as anything else I've tried. It's a nice soft compound, and especially, they cling really well to rock surfaces. It's pretty amazing. Any situation that I'm in where I'm going through snow, ice, thick mud, stuff like that, I simply wear another traction device. Micro spikes are what I use. You know that if you've seen my other videos. And, at that point, it's pretty perfect. Now, caution about minimalist shoes, because I think this kind of has to be in any explanation of them. You cannot go out and buy a pair of these shoes if you've worn traditional shoes and boots your whole life and just go hiking in them. You will hurt yourself. The deal is that your traditional shoes, they keep your, and especially hiking boots, they keep your ankles from moving, they keep your feet crammed together and keep your feet from doing anything. And so all of those muscles are very weak, they're very limp, you will end up with an injury if you go out and work them as much as you do in these. It's almost like being barefoot, obviously with a little bit of protection from the ground and from the elements on the top. So if you are interested in going to minimalist footwear, I suggest that you get them and you do short walks to start on flat, even surfaces, get used to it, and work on building up the muscles that you need to do it. Now, I'm not saying that everybody should go to minimalist shoes either. Do your own thing. Whatever makes you happy, whatever you think is best for you is the best way to go. But this happens to be what works for me. So, to recap, I have found that these shoes are the most durable that I've found. They're not very expensive. They do a great job of getting around town. They do a great job of hiking. They dry quickly. Never had a problem with blisters. They're super light. And I can't say enough good about them. They're wonderful shoes. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And thanks for watching. I hope this has been informative. I hope that maybe you get something out of this. And like I said, I strongly urge you to go out and try some of Lems products, especially these if you're looking for a lightweight trail runner to use for hiking, running, walking around town, or whatever. So, again, thanks for watching. And please don't forget to like this video and subscribe. You can do that right over here. And till next time.